In 2023, Turkey celebrated the centenary of the founding of the Republic. In a sign of its ambitions to take the country forward, Ankara has labelled the coming 100 years the century of Turkey. It applies to aspirations and projects at home and abroad. In terms of how Turkey interacts with the outside world, the country's place as a major geopolitical actor is now well established. So how far and how much can Ankara influence a fairer, more just and inclusive global order? I'm Adnan Nawaz. In this edition of TRT World's One-on-One, we speak with His Excellency Foreign Minister Hakan Fidan. Your Excellency Hakan Fidan, welcome to One-on-One. It's a great pleasure to have you on the program. I think we have to start with Gaza. Turkey has played a very important role in getting the ceasefire plan in place. President Recep Tayyip Erdogan said just recently that in a multilateral meeting with President Trump, that the US president appreciated the Turkish analysis of what's happening in the enclave very much. But are you frustrated with the lack of progress towards phase 2 of the deal? That's supposed to include the International Stabilization Force, the establishment of a board of peace that will overlook governance of Gaza, and of course also the disarmament of Hamas. But we haven't reached there yet. Should we already be there by now?
Well, first of all, thank you for hosting me. This ceasefire is very much precious for us, because we've seen the horror, the human tragedy, the genocide that took place in Gaza over the last 2 years. And therefore, we worked so hard to reach a ceasefire. And as President Recep Tayyip Erdogan mentioned in New York with President Trump last September, I think that was a turning point to the road to ceasefire. And it helped a lot. And President Trump, I think, came to realize that this is very serious. United States had to do something together with the regional countries. Now we have the ceasefire, but there are constant violations of ceasefire. This is, as you described, is very much frustrating for us. And since the declaration of the ceasefire, almost 400 Palestinians have been killed, and still the Palestinians are continuing to honoring the ceasefire, and the level of humanitarian assistance that we would like to see is never enough, because the peace plan that agreed by the sides made it very clear certain conditions and certain parameters regarding the protection of the lives and humanitarian assistance. But in spite of all these frustrations and big challenges, we as Muslim countries and international community, we want to see the ceasefire should proceed to the second phase. And there are now some talks away from the public eyes. And the discussions are mostly around the combination of the peace board and international stabilization force and the daily execution of the work, the executive committee. And there are discussions here and there. I think over the next couple of weeks, we will see some preliminary clear results of those discussions. As Turkey, we've been closely following those discussions. We are trying to make our own contributions, and we are also monitoring the ceasefire process in the field, and whatever violations and obstacles, roadblocks that we see, we communicate with the relevant partners, and we encourage them to take the necessary actions. Otherwise, as I said, we can go back to the horror days, the butchering of the people, the mass murdering, the genocide. Not only this time maybe in Gaza, but it is infectious. God forbid, we might see the same thing in West Bank too.
It's quite possible that the International Stabilization Force could be the pillar of that second phase to provide security for Palestinians living in Gaza. And Turkey has indicated it's ready to participate and to play its part. But Gideon Saar, the Israeli foreign minister, calls Turkey a hostile force. He says that the words that come out of Ankara are unfair to Israel, and it insists it will not allow Turkish forces to be in Gaza. But why should Israel make that decision? If you are ready and other countries are not as ready, why should you, as Turkey, not take the lead? Why should Israel decide?
Well, that's a very good question. You know, Turkey has been the voice of the human conscience, the international conscience in the face of the Israeli atrocities in Palestine, killing 70,000 women and children. And it's something that we have to object, we have to uprise, and we have to outcry. And Turkey diplomatically and has been voicing this voice right from the start. And Israel has never been used to see that level of criticism and condemnation coming from the international community, because they've been given by international community as a blanket check to do whatever they would like to do whatever they think that it is necessary for their security, even it means a mass murdering. And this has been the case for over decades, and Israel has been exempted from the international system. And I think this era is over now. Turkey, together with its partner, have played a very crucial role in coming to this conclusion. That's why Israel is very much objecting Turkey's participation. But Israel is not the only relevant actor here. There are other relevant actors here. So we are talking to them. And as you said, we, right from the beginning, we have stated very clearly, President Erdogan, that we are ready to do whatever necessary to contribute to the peace process, whether humanitarian side, whether military side, security side, or other technical assistance, infrastructure, health, those areas that we've been working very hard. In Turkey, we have a huge team and interdepartmental teams that they are working on specific areas on how to deliver certain assistance to Gaza. This is a direct instruction from President Erdogan, and my ministry is coordinating all these efforts. But as I said, we're ready to participate in ISF. The Israelis are objecting openly, and we are talking to other partners as well. But for us, to be honest, to see what is necessary in the field, whoever is doing this, it's a secondary question for us. If somebody else can come and do the same thing, in favor of humanity and humanitarian values in Gaza, we are fine by that. But if our assistance is very much needed, we are also ready to contribute.
Would that analysis and opinion also count for Turkey's involvement in helping Syria to recover? And I'm specifically here again talking about security. Because apart from the fact that the majority of Syrian people live in poverty, the country is celebrating just about a few days ago the anniversary of the fall of the regime of Bashar al-Assad. But in terms of the security issues, there could well be a danger presented by Daesh sleeper cells, but also the thousands of Daesh terrorists who are held in prisons in northern Syria. And you have, as the foreign ministry, been speaking with other regional partners about possibly taking joint action against that Daesh threat. The Americans are already conducting a sweep. Some of their soldiers were killed by a Daesh sympathizer a few days ago. How big a threat is that?
Well, certainly Daesh is a big threat, and we can deal with that. We can, as regional countries, as Turkey, Syria together even, as long as there is a good cooperation mechanism in place, I think we can address this issue effectively. Because, as you know, Turkey has been a very experienced country in the region in counter-terrorism. We've been fighting against PKK terrorism and other sorts of terrorism for the last 40 years. So we have developed extensive skills and capabilities in dealing with this threat. So when it comes to Daesh, unfortunately, before last year, because of the threat environment in Syria, Daesh and other terrorist organizations were able to find a way for themselves because of the cracks within the system. Now the civil war is over, the people are ruling Damascus, and there is a healthy cooperation right now. And as long as I said, there's a cooperation mechanism in place, we can deal with that. So during the first months of the revolution, the early 2025, we came together with other regional countries. We said, look, now Syria is on the way to recovery. They have deep wounds, and they need time to heal themselves, and they need international and regional support to go in this direction. But in the meantime, we don't want to see any other hostile elements taking advantage of this process. So that's why we thought that the terrorism is the biggest threat at that time, so we need to step in. So that cooperation, was very much useful in terms of creating, a separate awareness in the minds of our Syrian partners, because they are very well aware of the Daesh threat, but how the international community is fighting against Daesh and what kind of mechanisms they have. And now they are state actor. As a state actor, how should they behave in dealing with this problem together with other regional partners? That was something else for them. But it was good to get them introduced to this area. And they are very capable and they are very keen to address this issue. Now, as you know, they've been part of the international coalition against ISIS, and now they signed the paperwork in Washington, D.C. Just last month. That was a good, I think, initiative. So they made it very clear that they are committed to fighting against Daesh, and together with other countries. So our military experts, the intelligence experts, together with other regional countries and the Americans and everybody else, now they are advancing the agenda in fighting against ISIS. We should never allow any terrorist element to derail the Syrian people and state on its way to recovery.
Are you disappointed at the slow pace of the integration within the broader Syrian framework of the SDF elements that are in the north of the country? That may be something that is a specific threat to Turkey. Of course, this border issue has been there for a long time, but over the past few years, the security in Turkey has been so strengthened. But could that be in danger if the SDF is not reintegrated into the new Syria?
Well, certainly, we are not happy with the speed of the process. We and the Syrians and some other partners, I don't want to name them, they think collectively that the SDF is trying to buy more time. I think they are hoping to see some other opportunities for themselves, maybe in the form of some other regional crisis, maybe because of the Israelis' expansionist policies towards Syria and other places. So I think the good thing is our American partners actually, they are very well aware of the fact that this process should be completed, because this is very much essential to the unity of the country. And so, as you know, every different element of Syrian opposition, the armed groups, came under the Syrian Ministry of Defense now, except for SDF, because they were not member of opposition. In the former opposition structure, there were different groups. They were not always under one command and control. And now they accepted to come under the command and control of Ministry of Defense. This is very much essential for the national unity, because you cannot have 2 or 3 different armed structures answering to different authorities in one state. If you have this, you cannot mention about unity and sovereignty. So it is essential, and everybody understands this. But we just hope that things go through dialogue, negotiations, and peacefully. We don't want to see any need to resorting to military means again. But SDF should understand the patience of the relevant actors are running out. They should come to a place where their commitment to agreement of 10th of March should be honored. Everybody expecting from them to honor that agreement without any delay and without any twisting, because we don't want to see a deviation from this agreement. At the end of the day, our Syrian partners in Damascus, they also see this is a very much essential step for their national unity. I am optimistic in a sense. Hopefully, if we use the right tactics and techniques and cooperation forums, I think we will get there.
I want to turn to the Russia-Ukraine war because Turkey is in an enormous unique position. The world is so divided about what's happening that Ankara seems to be one of the few actors that can actually speak freely and fairly with both sides. And of course, Ankara has brought the two sides together on multiple occasions. Right now, in terms of searching for peace, we seem to have reached a point where Ukraine might be ready to accept these NATO-like Article 5 security guarantees coming from Washington, although it's slightly strange to hear an American representative say those guarantees won't be on the table forever, as if they're trying to pressure Volodymyr Zelensky a bit excessively. His is an extremely difficult position. You said a few days ago that possibly a referendum in Ukraine, because it's quite clear, according to the president of Ukraine, that the concession of territory is his biggest issue, that he doesn't know how to deal with this because it's a constitutional issue and he is an individual. Would it be right for his people to decide whether they should give up territory? You seem to be thinking that that could be some kind of solution towards a lasting peace.
Well, certainly we would welcome any ceasefire, any peace coming out of this war, because it's been going on for the last 40 years, and just like in the war in Gaza, it is causing huge destruction and human life losses. I think in the middle of Europe in the 21st century, witnessing such a conventional war was something that I think the people in Europe would never imagine in their lifetime. They think that these scenes belongs to the Second World War time frame. But here we are. The reality is in the middle of Europe in the year 2025, huge conventional warfare is taking place and claiming thousands of lives and causing huge destruction in big cities and turning the cities a place in rubble, unrecognizable. So, and it is also threatening the regional countries, and the regional escalation of the war, especially towards the Black Sea, is now threatening Turkey and other littoral countries as well. Therefore, right from the beginning, Turkey has been very much busy and working very hard to really contribute, if it is possible, for ceasefire. So we've had numerous attempts together with other partners, sometimes just ourselves, and all of them almost known by the public. But I think now, especially for the last few weeks, the talks have intensified, and we are happy to see the level of discussions and the seriousness by the parties. Europeans are now engaging. The Americans are leading the mediation, and we should really give a special credit to President Trump and his team for what they are doing in the mediation of this war. I mean, this is something, again, in the case of Gaza, can only be done by the engagement of the United States. Now, Mr. Trump and his team, we are also talking to them, and to Russians and to Ukrainians, to Europeans as well. They are very close to reach a deal now at the moment. This is that much I can only say. The likely agreed text will be presented to the Ukrainian public. It is their own internal dynamic. And you mentioned about referendum or other types of commitment or agreement to the peace plan. But once they reach an agreement on the paper, I am sure they will find a way of presenting to the public, because what is important also, in addition to will of President Zelensky and the Ukrainian public, and the position of the Europeans. And now Europeans seem to have united around the ceasefire cause. This is very much important. The European leaders that we are talking to they seem to be very much genuine and sincere about the ceasefire. But of course, provided that they have their own security concerns. The Ukrainians have their own security concerns. That's why they ask security guarantees. And naturally, Russians have their own security concerns and they ask for additional guarantees. So combining all these demands and bringing about a format and a plan that is agreeable by all parties is a very challenging job. I think we are very close to reaching a deal now.
You mentioned the Black Sea. A few years ago, when Ankara brought the parties together, Antonio Guterres, UN Secretary General, was here. The Black Sea grain deal was approved. I don't know if you heard the statistic. It's absolutely stunning. One shipment of Ukrainian grain makes 40 million loaves of bread. That's 40 million hungry families in a country that's desperate for food that could stay alive. But now the insecurity seems to have come back to the Black Sea. There was a drone that the Turkish Air Force shot down that they tracked coming from the Black Sea area. Ships have been hit in the Black Sea, commercial shipping. This is a problem. But your government has been calling for possibly some kind of guarantees for energy infrastructure, with the Russians have been attacking in Ukraine regularly, and for port facilities. Is there any news about that possible kind of compromise before a full ceasefire?
Well, as you know, while the war was going on a couple of years back, we managed to break a deal between the sides, it was called the grain deal. You know, it was allowing all the ships in the Mediterranean move freely. It was basically about maritime security, and it helped deliver huge amount of 30 million tons of to be precise, grain to be delivered to the world markets, particularly to Africa. And President Erdogan, because of humanitarian reasons, was very much sensitive about this deal, the grain deal. Still, he talks about this, the importance of this, because your war here is also affecting the life of people in Africa, in Latin America, even in Europe, in Central Asia. Now, maritime security, therefore, is very much important. Both Russia and Ukraine, they are big producers of the grain.
Yeah.
Apart from the energy that they are selling to the rest of the world, but the grain is a primary product that they are providing to the rest of the world. So that's why we put special emphasis on advancing the agenda on to reaching maritime security all the time. What's happening now is, since we are engaged, all the relevant actors, in a whole peace plan, a whole package peace plan, and now they don't discuss much about the limited ceasefire agreements. When we say limited, it's limited to energy infrastructure and the maritime security. President Erdogan, in his discussions, and myself, when we discuss with our counterparts, we say, look, if we cannot reach a complete ceasefire and peace plan, please, let's get this limited agreement done. But as I described earlier, since there is a big discussion is taking place between the parties, mediated by the Americans, about the complete plan, I think this is a secondary issue now. And yet, we've been affected badly. Now, in recent weeks, the ships have been targeted by both sides, and now drones are flying not only respective warring parties but into our territory. So this is causing further problems for littoral countries as well. We've seen the same thing in Romania, in Bulgaria again, and it all started a couple of years back with the drifting of the mines through the Black Sea and coming through the Bosphorus. At one point, it became so dangerous that would block the entire ship traffic and the straits. So those are the problems also we are dealing with our military and together with the cooperation with other littoral countries, particularly Romania and Bulgaria. But the shortest way to put an end to all these problems is to reach a ceasefire. This is why we are giving full support to this. I hope that they reach it. Otherwise, the escalation that we've been warning right from the beginning is gradually taking place. The regional escalation is very much dangerous, and it may not stay here. It might escalate into different parts of Europe as well.
It won't have escaped anybody's attention that we are talking about conflict. So much of your work seems to be about conflict resolution. So let me ask you a more classic diplomatic question, where the words become more important than possibly resolving actual fighting. The Greek Cypriots will soon take over the EU presidency. Do you see that as a challenge or an opportunity?
It can be an opportunity for us too, because we've known them for a long time. In every international platform, they are blocking us. Wherever they have a chance, they block us. But in the face of current threats that Europe is facing, I think the cooperation and relations between European Union and Turkey have become much more relevant than ever and important than ever. So the Greek Cypriot entity is a major obstacle between EU and Turkey. And unfortunately, the system of the inner working of EU is allowing to such a action of Greek Cypriots. We don't have to stick to the old mentality. We can be more creative because the time flows, and the generations, the next generations, they need to see a solution from us. We inherited this problem, but we don't want to leave this problem for the next generations. There are realities in the island. This two-state solution, right now, everybody knows, is the only realistic solution on the island, and everybody knows this. We, as Turkey, took a positive side in, during the Annan Plan and Crans-Montana period. The Turkish Cypriots, they voted in favor of UN plan, but the Greek Cypriots rejected it, and they will never say yes an equal power sharing, wealth sharing, authority sharing agreement for Cyprus. They know this. We know this. Europeans know this. This is a reality. So what is the alternative to this? Is a two-state solution. We can do this, and after the two-state solution, they can create a new kind of cooperation or the political unity. It's up to them. But what we need to do urgently is that we need to seize the moment, and we need to use every historical opportunity to turn Cyprus into a heaven, because other regional countries, other littoral countries of Mediterranean, they are doing huge investments on tourism, on economy, on industry. Stop isolating Turkish Cypriots. We can start having a quality cooperation, and while freezing the political problem, we can enjoy altogether from economic development, regional development, exploiting the energy, exploiting the tourism, industry, and everything together. But sticking to the old objectives and mentality is not helping us in addressing this issue in a positive way. So this is the message that we are trying to give them, because the society has been conditioned in a way so long that is, very difficult for politicians to take a U-turn. But somebody has to tell the truth, and somebody has to be brave enough to voice the truth about the realities on the island and the opportunities that we are missing altogether. And the risks that we are creating because of the existing de facto situation.
Foreign Minister of Turkey, Hakan Fidan, Your Excellency, thank you so much for joining us on TRT World for this one-on-one. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you. Thank you.